Hello everybody, welcome to the stream. Thanks everybody for the follows. How is everybody doing today? Everybody hear me okay? I am A-OK, thank you. Cool. Yeah, I've had a slight confusion with my headphones. So my headphones are going into my microphone, and it's a Blue Yeti, and the Blue Yeti is set to be the speaker output for the computer, so I'm supposed to be able to hear everything going on. But normally what happens is when you talk into the microphone, the sound is supposed to come out so you can actually reasonably hear what you're saying. But for some reason the audio, my voice isn't coming back through my headphones, and so I kind of, if you just hold your ears closed and talk, when you can't hear yourself properly, it's really distracting and it's really difficult. So need some advice from Ipsec, because he's the pro, right? It works fine if you're on Teams or Google Meet or whatever it's called. It's only when I stream. So I'm just going to go ahead and blame OBS. In other news, today's beverage is a Kentish strong ale. That is Kentish. Not another word that sounds like it. And if you were here last week, you'll know that the code didn't go so well. So that's why we have our mascot with us today. So the mascot, the Rasta mascot, is hopefully going to bring us some good code joy. If necessary, we'll burn him as a sacrifice to the coding gods. But I don't even think that would save my bad coding. So I got a little one, this little beanie, which you can tell it's not much bigger than my hand. And then around here, I've got a much bigger one. This is the big Rasta. Right, thanks for the more follows. Right, so let's try and where did I even get my hands on those? So the big one was actually a gift from Got Milk a long time ago. I think when my first kid was born, which was about 4 years ago, he sent me a bunch of stuff. I think he just walked into some sort of kids shop and just bought everything that had Rasta Mouse on it. So there was that, and a beanie, and a jumper, and all sorts of stuff. So that was from Got Milk. And then the little one came from someone at work, who I used to work with. I think she was glad that I was leaving, so she got me a present. Yeah, right, so recap. So For those of you who weren't here last week, the point of these streams is we're developing SharpC2, which is a command and control framework that I wrote initially with Adam Chester. He's on Twitter as XPN. We started it way back in 2018, I think, and ever since then I've been like just playing with different ideas for the framework. I did a development series on YouTube, and I had another idea for how we could build it, so that's the point of these streams. So we've only had one stream so far, which was last week, and these are the components that we built. So the design ethos is that we are going to have a team server, which is going to be a Blazor team server, but we're architecting it in like a loose couples kind of way. So we have different components that are all their own class libraries, and we've done this so that we can more easily unit test them. Hey, DMC Blue, thanks. Welcome to the stream, thanks for the follow. So the idea is that we have use cases that you call from your user interface. Those use cases will call some sort of business logic, and then from there it will actually do the thing that needs to be done. And last week we mocked a test and it didn't work because I wasn't doing my dependency injection properly. So when we were trying to run the test, I was basically just getting this I can't remember which one, but one of these classes wasn't being injected, and it's simply because I hadn't injected it into the service collection, and that was literally it. I said on stream at the time, I'm going to stop the stream and I'm going to have a look and I'm going to find it straight away, and I pretty much did, and that was it. That just one line, that's all I was missing. So this is kind of how it looks really. So this is a unit test to start a listener. So this iStart listener interface is dependency injected, and all of the use cases, if we have a look at it, it simply has one method just for execution. So we're just going to pass in a new, just like random listener class. We're gonna, in this stream, we're gonna create an HTTP listener and actually do a proper unit test to be able to test, starting a listener. But I mean, you can imagine, if you imagine Blazor, we're going to have like a form where you would fill in the details for your listener, and then you would just call this execute method on this interface, and that's all the UI will do. And I compared it to Covenant at the time because Covenant is just one project, it's just one Blazor project, and everything to do with it is just inside the Blazor project, which makes it a little bit hard to test. And if you've used Covenant for a while, or maybe even not a while, but I mean, it has its fair share of bugs like all software, but I think one of the problems is if you follow the GitHub channel and you follow the Slack channel and the issues on GitHub, you see some like regression sometimes of things that are fixed and then they come back, or something is fixed and it breaks something else. Yeah, I bet that was fun as well, wasn't it? I bet that was loads of fun. But of course the advantage of Sorry, I'm such a dick. Why does what it needed 777? Why does assert need 777? But I think the point is if you have unit tests, once you've made changes to your code or whatever, you can just run the tests, and if they pass, then they pass, and that's good. And if they fail, then you know that you've introduced another bug somewhere. So this way of laying out this software, architecting it this way, was sort of just more of an experiment to see if it was more easily testable. So if I put a breakpoint here, right, this is the unit test, and if we go to our test explorer, we have a test, and you can actually debug your tests as well. So when they fail, you can step through and work out why. So we're just creating this listener class. At the moment, the listener doesn't really have anything. It just has an ID and a name and a type. Can you zoom in a little? Is that better? I don't know how to make the other like Visual Studio elements like bigger. The text is about the only thing I know how to change. So we're just creating this dummy listener, which is just being constructed here. So it gets just an ID when it's constructed, and now we are inside the use case. So we can see here from the namespace we're in the use cases, and the use cases as well bring in a listener manager, which is all dependency injected as well. Dependency injection, if you've never used it, is a bit confusing. So you see we've got a constructor here, but it has 0 references. So it's kind of one of those, it's just like constructed out of thin air. And this iListener manager is automatically provided in the constructor. And it's really cool once you get used to it, because it makes managing your classes a bit easier. It has some drawbacks as well, like we saw on the last stream. Even though like everything was compiling properly and there were no compiler errors, when we actually ran it, it would just throw an exception. So with dependency injection, you do tend to move some of your compiler errors to like runtime errors, and that can make it harder to debug. So we're in the use case here, and the first thing we're going to do is call this business logic function. So Blazor being a UI, a web UI, I mean, you know, you should never really trust your user interface to do data validation for you, because, you know, users are going to be users, and especially with a web application, you can just use like Burp or some other tool where you're just going to be bypassing a bunch of like UI data validation. So it's always a good idea to have a separate business logic sort of layer in the background. So we're going to step through this, and we're just going to validate this model that's been passed to us. But the way I've implemented it at the moment, it doesn't actually do anything. So what we will do is we'll switch on the type of listener it is. So if it's an HTTP listener, it needs things like a bind port and, you know, all that kind of rubbish. So we will validate that stuff in here, and we'll just return a bool whether it's like okay or not okay. At some point we'll probably need to like throw custom exceptions, so you can like bubble up an error message to the UI. So you can throw an exception here and say, hey, you're missing like this particular like field or whatever. But for now we just return true. And then if it is true, we're going to call this start listener method on the listener manager. The listener manager itself has these methods. So just start listener, stop listener, get one listener by its ID, and get all listeners. And I guess what's kind of good about this is that when we have different flavors of listeners, like HTTP listener and like SMB listeners, God forbid, or TCP listeners, they'll all inherit from this base class. So all of those classes can just be returned as a listener, and it should just work fine. Should. And so now we're in the somewhere within the core namespace. We're on this listener manager, and none of these are implemented at the moment. So we'll kind of do that now-ish. Yeah. I have no idea how we're going to tackle that, really. To be fair, I have no idea how should and it works on my machine. I have no idea how like Cobalt Strike handles SMB listeners, really, because you can just like spam the hell out of like as many SMB listeners as you want, or SMB sort of like base payloads on a machine, and it just works. It is dark magic. Absolutely it is. Right, so we'll stop there, and let's bin some of these off. I also, from the last stream, I've changed the names of some of these a little bit to try and make them a little bit more obvious for what they do. So I think most of them are self-explanatory. So all the business logic libraries are going in here. Hey, Paul. All the use cases go in here, and then all the like core stuff can go in here. One of the things I want to do as well is to be able to make the team server more easily like expandable. So if you want to add some sort of custom module to the team server, I want it to be easy to do, basically. Probably some sort of same structure here. So two examples I can think of are like SOX proxies and reverse port forwards. So both of those need some sort of element on the team server to manage the traffic. So let's go into models. So we've got this listener model. Let's add a new class, and we'll call it HTTP listener. And this will inherit from listener. I'm also trimming down the namespaces, because if you go into like the Blazor imports, you can have all of your, these are like global imports, so I don't know if I've got an example page somewhere. Index. So in a page you can have a using statement at the top, if it's in your, if you have a using statement in your imports, then it's automatically applied to all of your pages. So if we just have like one or fewer namespaces, then you don't have to have as many imports, and I think it makes it look a bit cleaner. So put a constructor in because we want to be able to set the type of this listener. So we'll just do that on the constructor of every type of listener. So we can just set that to HTTP. And then we have to think about the properties an HTTP listener needs. So it'll need a bind port. It will need a connect address. And it will need a connect port. You could make this like a list or an array if you want to have like a round robin type thing. But I think I'm going to keep it simple. I mean, what I tend to do quite frequently is to think to myself, oh yeah, this should be a list or it should be an array. But it seems to, for me anyway, it just seems to overly complicate like just getting stuff up and running and working. So I think I would rather keep it simple, and then when it's working, just build on it. If you think of anything else, or you think if you think anything else should be here, then do shout out in the chat. The other thing we might want to do is to initialize these values. So for example, we might want a bind address as well as a bind port. Let's order these like this: bind address, bind port, connect address, connect port. So the bind address, we could say it will probably just be all interfaces. And you can either do that by setting it here, like that, or you can set it in the constructor. I don't know if there's like a technical difference to doing that, or if it's just down to like a preference thing. But I think we'll just probably just leave it like that for now. So in our business logic layer, we can not bother checking this because we know it's going to have a value. If you don't initialize these values, and then you try to do something with that property, it'll throw like a null reference or some sort of like null argument type error. We'll also put some methods on. So we'll have a start and a stop. So no idea what they're going to look like yet. Okay. So let's go to the business logic. Let's create a static bool validate HTTP listener model. And we can just do something as simple as like if string is null or empty. Oh, I didn't want it to all actually be. Let's call that listener. So like if the connect address is empty, yeah, so return false, otherwise return true. I was just thinking then, how do you check to see if an int is like null? So I don't know if you can do. I don't know if you can do that. Yeah. Yeah. If anyone in the chat knows how to check to see if an integer is there, do shout. So we're going to here we'll can you just call that? Now here's the thing, right? So if we pass listener in like this, it's going to complain that you can't convert from a listener to an HTTP listener. But what you can do is just cast it like that, and that works fine. And the use case will need to change as well, so this is going to be an HTTP listener. Okay. Cheers, Val. Right, now we need to find, and I say find, we need to find, because there's a lot of libraries and I'm going to get lost a lot. So in the listener manager, that's fine. We've got start listener. So actually what I think maybe we should do is put the stops on the base class, and then override them from in here. So what's that? Is that a virtual? So by default they'll do nothing, and then you can override them in here. Override start, override stop. So if you have anything in the body here, you can call it using this base keyword. So the base keyword is like a shorthand for you to reference anything that's in the class that it inherits from. So you can see that we can access the ID and the name properties here, as well as the type and the stop methods. So if we have something that we know that every listener needs to do on stop and start, we can put it in here. But I don't think we will actually. So in start listener, we can say something like listener, we can just do listener.start. For now, I'm just going to put a list of listeners up here. So we'll start the listener and then we'll add it to this list. When we want to stop it, we'll grab it from the list. So we'll say the listener is need link. Okay, so what we're doing here, if you've not used link before, is we're just grabbing the first listener in that list that has an ID that equals the ID that we're going to pass in, ignoring the case. And then we're going to say listener stop. And another little tip here is that if this listener does not exist, then this will be null. So like really if you think about it, you want to say if the listener does not equal null, then you want to call the stop method, because if it is null, it'll throw an exception if you try and call a method on it. But this is like quite long, so you could say, well, we could shorten it to something like that, but some people don't like that. You can shorten it to that, and some people don't like that because it might make it hard to read. So this this question mark is like shorthand. Uh-oh, look who's here, everyone. The typo police. So what this will do is, if the listener is not null, it'll call the stop method. If it is null, then it won't, and we'll just like exit out of the method. We'll exit out of here. Get listeners, we just want to return the list, and get listener, let's just return that. So if you do this, it'll either return a listener or it will return null. I'm sorry, Spooks got caught by the bot as well. Another thing you could do here actually is you can make like better use of your existing methods. So instead of doing this whole like listeners dot first blah 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 blah, and then you still have to do that, they would get listeners, wouldn't you? Yeah, it's fine. Okay, so that kind of looks okay to me. One of the things we'll do here is this, we're not going to keep this, right? So if you think about what might happen is you might start the team server, you might start a listener, and then for whatever reason you need to stop the team server and start it again. If you have things like this that only exist in memory, they just get lost as soon as you close your application. So at some point we will work out how to do like some sort of data persistence like on disk, I thought about like a database, like a SQLite database, but I don't think SQLite is particularly good at storing like complicated data types. Yeah, how have you found it? What kind of data? Oh, okay. If you want to answer, what kind of data you're storing? Because I think if you look at the built-in data types, you get like string, int, like real, which I think is like a float, and blob, which I think is a byte array. And I think it makes it really difficult to store, like, if I had a list, I think it would make it difficult to just store a list in a column or a field or whatever. And if you have like a whole class of stuff, like how do you store that properly in a database? So I don't think I'm going to do a database. I'm going to take like a simpler approach. I think I'm just going to like serialize this whole thing into a byte array and just dump it to a binary file. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, JSON. Yeah, file locks. Yeah, so file locks is a pretty good thing actually to bring up. So in here we've got a bunch of methods that are all operating on the same list. And if like get listeners is executing at the same time as like start listener, where you add a listener, you can get instances where like this will throw an exception, like some sort of enumerable was changed while iterating or something like that. So you have to kind of lock the list so that like two methods can't change the data at the same time. And I don't know how you did it, but like the easiest way I reckon is just to say lock listeners and then put your statement in there like that, so that whilst this is executing, nothing else can change listeners, and then when it's finished it unlocks. So that works in the same way as a using statement, and that when you come out, whatever's up here gets disposed. I end up using to make sure the data gets written. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's complicated, and they're the kind of really annoying bugs that they're difficult to test for, I reckon, because they're the kind of bugs that crop up more when something is under more load. So if you've got one user doing something, it's going to be pretty difficult to like trip a bunch of these at the same time. But if you've got like 20 users doing something, you've got 20 users doing stuff with listeners, there's a lot more chance that you're going to have like one of those clashes. So yeah, I think they're pretty difficult to test for those things. Yeah, definitely edge cases, yeah. Right, so let's see how this is going to go. Let's go to our listener test. This now needs to be an HTTP listener. It needs to give it a name, and it needs to have, let's put a connect address of 127.0.0.1. So here we can set a default value there, and that's interesting to note that value on the property gets set before the constructor is called. That is an interesting thing to take note of. Okay, so now we have listener. See, bind port is 0. So in our business logic we can say if it's greater than 0 and less than 65535. That's all it would need, isn't it, really? So you can see that this little casty translation-y thing happened fine. And we're going to return true because our connect address is not null. You can bind to port 0. Oh, really? Check for other running ports, yeah. So you can, yeah, you can definitely do that. Check that the port is not already bound. You wouldn't really want port 0 though, would you? Like, really? Does it actually function? Just trolling you. Alright. Well, okay, well everyone in the chat just found out that I'm a really easy mark, because I'll fall for anything. You can, but you would never want. Okay, yeah, that's what I was getting at. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now we're in the listener manager. We're going to call start, which doesn't do anything. So we are in the override, and then we're going to add it to the list, and then we're going to come out. So there you go. So that seems to be working. So let's actually start a listener then. Let's actually make it do something. So the really cool thing about like, what is it, ASP.NET Core is that it has built-in like web server functionality, because that's kind of what it's meant for. So what I can add in here is we've got this project reference. I think we can add a framework reference as well. Microsoft ASP netcore.app. Yeah, seems to be right. So even though this project type isn't ASP.NET Core, you can add a framework reference. And so the same way that like Blazor and like MVC and all those other type of projects, they have a host builder. That's not in here, is it? It's in program. They have like this host builder, so we can call that now. I think new host builder. Is it? Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the follow. Yeah, okay, new host builder. Is it host build or is it build host? Can't type either. Build host. I don't think it's build host. I thought it was. I have to like Google it or something. Again, if someone in the chat already knows the answer. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's host builder. It's the only one that makes sense, I guess. New host builder. I'm sure it takes a bunch of stuff. Properties, no, that's not what we wanted. Host dot build. Probably configure web host. Configure web host. Options. Starts. I was looking for some sort of way to like tell it to use Kestrel. Does anybody know? Maybe don't put it on. Or maybe I just don't have a. Yeah, it's in the doc, but didn't have the using statement. Okay, so use Kestrel. I don't really know how many, I don't know what options we'll need here. There's all sorts of stuff that's going to be useful, like configure logging. So we probably want to be looking into that to do like web logs. Services, we'll need to inject other services. To handle like the agents. We'll need a service for that. Here we go, start async. Use content routes. Close it off. Or is that it? I'm sure there's somewhere where you can tell it what like URIs to use and things. maybe we just start to build and see what happens. So once you've built it, you run it. So we'll start it asynchronously. We'll start async, run async. What's the difference? We're writing a command and control framework. Start async. So we need a cancellation token, because that's what we'll be using to stop. So what would that be? A cancellation token source. Did I not just add that? Hello? Let's just say new token source, and then token source dot token, and then to stop it you do token source dot cancel, like that. He's a good egg, IPsec. Yeah, so this host builder, it's going to need to know what like port it's going to be listening on, doesn't it? Let's see if I can find some examples. What, you mean you didn't read my own tweet? Jeez. ASP.NET Core host builder. That's fine. I'm just messing. So normally run for an hour and a half, so we've got about up to half an hour left. I'd really like it if we can get a this listener started. So I'm wondering if I need a startup class for it, because like if you look in this program, in the Blazor, you have this use startup, and then in startup you have like all of this stuff. So I wonder if we need one of those as well. You see this this doc here has like use settings and hosting URLs. Excuse me. Look, use URLs. That's what I want. That's what I was thinking of. How do you get to that use URLs though? Where's that? Yeah, these are .NET 5. Initially I planned to use like .NET Standard, because I thought that would be a lot more, I don't know, that seemed to make more sense to me to use .NET Standard. But you can't, apparently you can't add You can't add ASP.NET Core to .NET Standard library. Who knew? But I tried, it didn't work. Jeff! Thanks for the follow, Jeff. How are you doing, good sir? Oops. Oh, use URLs. So it was here, was it? Okay. Reports are the worst. Right, use URLs. And it takes an array, a string array. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that from that document that we read, let's just do HTTP. There's probably going to be someone's going to ask me if I'm going to do HTTPS listeners, and like the answer is probably going to be no. So this will be connect address. Will it? Connect address? Or will it be the bind address? I think it's going to be the bind address, isn't it? Because this is the web server. Bind address and bind port. Right, I want to try this. Where's the unit test? Blood Bowl, what a name. Connect address. So let's do name is test. The bind port, let's say 8080. Connect address, connect port. Okay. So no 8080, we're not listening on 8080. So yes, it's all valid. So we're going to call start host. Use Kestrel, use URL, build, start. Okay. What do we think? Should we have a poll in the chat? Do you think the port is listening or not? I got so excited I just dribbled there myself. Let's have a look. No, it's not. No, we failed. Rip. Yeah. No, sorry, Jeff. No, just rip everywhere. And Oh, now it's trying to. What is? Oh, hang on. Now what's it doing? Oh no, I think I just started I started Blazor by mistake. Yeah, I did. Hey, welcome to the stream. So, AKA Luco. Let's try that. Hey, our test is passing though. That's it, we win. Unit test says it's fine. I'm sure if anybody works in like in actual like developer-y role where they actually have like quality testers and things like that, they'd be like, yeah, test passes. That is actually working. Okay, what's it now? Yeah, but should we show a sneaky peek at the Covenant listener? Like, why reinvent the wheel, right? So this is his listener, host builder, Kestrel. Okay, yeah, he's turning the Kestrel header off. That's a good idea. If SSL, we're not doing any of that. So he has got use URLs here like that. And he is using the bind address and the bind port. But yeah, he does have a startup, and we definitely do not have a startup. So maybe that's the problem. We need a startup. HTTP listener startup. And let's see if we can just take a bare minimum from like the Blazor one. Whoops, daisy. Ops.listener. Oh yeah, that's that's in his SSL block. So that's if it's an HTTPS listener. So I'm not going to worry about that. Right, let's copy some of this stuff. Ubic. configure services. No idea what we're going to need. So I'm pretty sure we're going to need at least some of these default services. Like some of the basic routing ones, or like add routing. Yeah, maybe that's it. So let's just and then app.use routing. Use endpoints. So we might need endpoints to specify like the actual pages that we want, but we haven't really worked out what we're going to do about like profiles, listener profiles yet. Woohoo! Alright, let's try this. Fingers crossed, absolutely. Although it can kind of become a tradition that I end every stream with a "sorry, it's not working." But if I was smart, maybe I would like plan these out to begin with. Yeah, so now we're calling the constructor of the startup. We'll magically call these two methods as well at some point. Yep, add routing, use routing. Aha! Okay, that's a good sign. So now the firewall is like, something is trying to listen. So let's allow that. And start. Defender knows nothing. So yeah, that works now. So we've got the port bound and listening. What happens if we try and like curl? Oh, it's not going to do anything because we're in a breakpoint. And then as soon as the test finishes, it's going to quit. So we're not going to have much of a chance to get anything. And oops. Yeah, now it's gone. So to actually make the test valid, let's try and get something from the server. I'm not even going to try and... Thanks for the follow. New HTTP client. And let's say var results is client dot get async. So we have to await this now. No, this should do. Listener dot bind address. Bind port. And then to decide whether a test has failed or not, you do an assert, and you can basically just figure out the condition that you want. So let's say that we want let's say is a successful status code. That seems kind of reasonable. So let's have a go with that. Come on, Beanie. Come on, Beanie Raster, I'll strangle you. So we've already executed, so yeah, we're listening. And then results. Oh, so you can't do that. Okay. Let's just put the connect address then. And the connect port. I initially didn't want to do that because the connect address could be like a redirect or something, but then I guess for the unit tests, oh crap. The unit test, that doesn't make any sense anyway. I'm not sure you would unit test with a redirector. Ah, connect port. No, he's... Oh no! No! You tried so hard, and then the bot is like, no! You got timed out for 1 second as well. That's funny. Right, result. So the result is a 404. Which I guess is okay, because the web server has to be there to return a 404. It's just saying that there's no content there. Well, I think it's because we're not defining any endpoints. But I think 404 is okay. So that can be our test case. Maybe we can change that at a later date. So we can say that the status code is equal to not found. Thanks for the follow. Ah, here we go. What's that? System.net. So we've got a clash. So let's just leave it there like that. Okay, let's pin that real quick. Oh, let's change this for a sec. I want to say OK, right? If we run the test, the test will fail. And then if we change it back to not found and run the test again, it should pass this time. There you go. Thanks for the follow, Young. So there you go. I say that's a pretty successful unit test. What do you say to that? So I think all of this, I might have mentioned this in the last stream, but for those of you who weren't there, all of this seems, I think on first hand, seems a little bit over the top. But when you look at the actual implementation in the test, this is all the UI has to do. So the UI will have a form that when you fill the values in, it will basically populate this class, and then it will just call this one method. So you wouldn't even see this in the UI. The UI would just sort of like look like more like this. So the UI, the Blazor app, the UI is going to look really clean. I think a lot cleaner than if we were including all of this code inside the Blazor app. And I think this shows that we can make the server-side stuff unit testable, which I think would be really good. So like if we do hosted files, we would have another test here where we just figure out a way to drop a file inside the listener somewhere, and then we use a client, a web client, to actually grab that to see if the file is there, and that would be a unit test for hosted files. And you can have multiple tests to test different scenarios, and I think in the long run it's going to be a really nice way to make sure that we're not going to have breaking changes committed into the repo. Because if you look at Covenant, it's got a lot of functionality, and it's really unreasonable to suggest that when you change something that you're going to be able to manually test all of that stuff. So I think this is a nice approach to do it this way, to have it all decoupled and have it unit testable. I think that's going to be really cool in the long run. Let's rename this to start HTTP listener. And a new folder for listener tests. So we can clean that up a little bit, rebuild it. I think the test should rename itself at some point. There you go. We'll rerun it just for the sake of it. Yeah, like the actual implant, I've not really thought about it too much. One of my, I think we'll just carry on the way that it was in the original POC, where we were, where the actual payload itself was really small, and we were just loading capabilities at runtime. Because that had It had a few advantages as well as disadvantages. Of course, the advantage was that the payload was small. The advantage was that you could control what was in it at any point. With the disadvantage that it was like slightly less convenient to use. So if you like fire up a beacon and you just type help, you've just got all of the commands there and you can just do stuff. Although you know, a lot of that stuff is pushed over the wire at runtime as well. So yeah, we'll be trying to figure out a way to make it small, make it extendable and flexible. I'm not quite sure how it's going to work. Definitely going to do some dnlib stuff that I've blogged about for a while. You know, like transforming XEs to DLLs, inserting like DLL exports and stuff like that. Runtime loading makes it so much better and flexible. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. If we can make it so that it's not such a boring overhead. You know, you don't want to be, for simple stuff like, you know, listing directories, you don't want to be having to jumping through hoops to do that all the time. Oh, a little bit like Meterpreter works actually. So Meterpreter loads extensions, doesn't it? You can load extensions into Meterpreter, like the PowerShell extension and the Kiwi extension, and but it loads the standard API stuff. It loads the standard API extension automatically, which you can turn off, but it's more convenient in most cases to have it by default. So we'll probably work out what we want in by default, and then what we want to sort of like put in at runtime. Even if my C# is terrible, can I follow along with the YouTube videos? Yeah, so one of the things I did with the YouTube videos is that I actually talked through some UML diagrams. So I talked about the overall design of the team server and how it was going to interact with agents and users and stuff like that. That was more useful from like a high-level software design perspective. But the videos were just like the streams really, except that the videos were obviously pre-recorded, so it was less of me going, what am I doing, and more about just doing it. So yeah, you can definitely follow along with them, although the implementation is completely different to what we're doing here. But it might be useful if you just want to watch some generic C#. I have thought about doing like a beginner C# series, but haven't yet. So yeah. Sonic Heroes. I realised on the last stream that I could still hear the music even though the stream couldn't. So there's a bunch of times where I was sat there going, and only I could hear it. So I think we'll, yeah, I'm pleased with this. Use MonsterCat. MonsterCat ain't free. At least I don't think it is. And I'm $5 a month. Do you know what I can get for $5 a month? I mean, maybe if this stream becomes a regular thing. Maybe if the stream becomes a regular thing and like we get some subs or some bits, then maybe it would make sense. But I think we've got a good number of viewers, so it's not out of the question. I'm not actually too far away from. Is it Twitch affiliate that comes first, or Twitch partner? No, it's affiliate that comes first, isn't it? So maybe if get Twitch affiliate, we'll do that. Affiliate is first, yeah, I thought so. It's the bar for affiliate is not actually that high either. It's quite easy to get, I think. So if there were any questions or comments or concerns about what we've done today? That's nice. Well, I'll take the silence in the chat to be a no, Rasta, you're a genius, and we understood everything. In which case, yeah, thanks Nightwolf. Thanks everyone for dropping by. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, are you still streaming on Sunday? Yeah, so check that stream out on Sunday. I'll be there. I think if the time difference isn't too crazy. You said 2 PM Eastern, didn't you? I don't even know what that is for me. It's probably gonna be like 1 in the morning or something. I don't know. Short answer is I don't know. Put it on Twitter and people will flock. Yeah, I'll be there then, if I can. Right, let me switch to my outro. Does my microphone still work on the outro? Can you still hear me? Yes. That's a shame then. That means I've got to be careful about what I say whilst I'm not being watched. I'm going to try and mute myself now. Hang on.